Welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, the 14th day of May. Thank you guys very much for being tuned in here this Wednesday evening. This is show number 1008. Thanks very much. If you're listening to the archive, listening live, whoever you happen to listen to the show, I appreciate you being tuned in. As always, send us emails to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. On tonight's show, we're going to talk to, as always, our good friend Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com about Beats audio, Beats headphone, Beats streaming music, and the Apple rumor so far, because it has not been confirmed by Apple. But a little birdie told me that Apple has been calling around to members of the media and analysts, asking them what they think. Apple hasn't confirmed or denied the rumor, but they're asking people what they think about the rumor. So that's kind of interesting that Apple is putting feelers out there. Now, supposedly something's going to be announced sometime this week, a little teaser this week, and then the big show will be at WWDC. Speaking of which, Apple's going to announce note the tense of that, is going to announce new hardware at WWDC. Now, the question for you guys is, what do you think that hardware is going to be? Send me an email to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. We're also going to I've got a pre-recorded interview with my first interview ever with a professional baseball player. All the thousands of interviews I've done over the years, I've never interviewed a professional baseball player. Ty Waller is the first base coach for the first place Oakland A's, the American League in baseball, Major League Baseball. He is also a Mac user and a iPad user and a Filemaker Pro user. And we're going to talk to him, again, pre-recorded, about how he uses his Mac and his iPad and FileMaker to make him a better coach and to make the Oakland A's a better baseball team. That's pre-recorded, coming up a little bit later. And then finally, in our starting point photography segment, I want to talk about the remarkably dumb thing David Pogue said. Yeah, I know, he said many, many dumb things over the years, but this one was really dumb. And we'll talk about his latest video about leaving your camera on automatic mode. And Pogue's comment of pros often use auto mode is so full of crap, as he has since learned in his comment section of that video. Pros don't leave their camera in auto mode most of the time. They might do it every now and then, but the definition of a pro is someone who doesn't use automatic. That's one way you know you're a pro, is when you're using a different mode. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the modes on your camera. If you have a point-and-shoot camera, if you have a consumer-level SLR or a mirrorless camera, you've got scene mode on your camera. And we'll talk about what those modes are and how you can use them. Send us email onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. As always, we love getting emails from you guys. We appreciate all the emails that we get, and some of them we read on the show. So if you have any questions, comments, tips or tricks or anything along those lines, send them off to me at onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. I want to say a big thank you to Sandro and Jason. Sandro is in Wilmington, Delaware. Jason is in Sydney, Australia. Those two guys, quite literally, on opposite sides of the world, took part in a Starting Point Photography beginner tips and tricks session this past Saturday. We had a lot of fun. Like I've always said, I enjoy doing the classes. I enjoy talking to folks. So it's one of the great things about doing this. Like, you can do it online, on demand, anywhere in the world. For Sandro, it was, I think, 6 p.m. Saturday. For Jason, it was literally 24 hours later. I think it was 6 p.m. Sunday, I think. 12 hours later, which is really kind of mind-blowing and freaky and kind of cool. And Jason said, I love Jason's comments. Jason sent me an email the next day, said right after the class, he went out shooting, which I think is just really cool. That, you know, he took the class and then the first thing he did was just go out and shooting and use some of the tips and tricks that we had discussed in the class. So, Jason, thank you very much for that very, very kind email. I don't know if I ever mentioned this on the show. Many moons ago, there was a mockumentary made for a version of Your Mac Life. It was Mac Show Live, something like that. Go to YouTube, do a search for mockumentary. The folks at Mac Addict, formerly the magazine formerly known as Mac Addict, sent a crew up to here in Vancouver and filmed the crew. There was, I think, 6 of us at the time. and talked about how and why we did this kind of stuff. It's kind of interesting. If you get a chance, check it out on YouTube. Macumentary is the name of the video. You can also, if you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can find it on my YouTube channel. I should put it up on the yourmaclifeshow.com website. I don't know why I haven't yet. I'm pretty sure I put it up on my Facebook page. And as always, Facebook, you do a search for Shawn M. King. That's me. You can do a search for Your Mac Life on Facebook. Do a search for Starting Point Photography on Facebook. All that stuff, all those things, they've got their own pages on Facebook. So please check those out. On next week's show, we're actually going to be talking to another company that does some really neat stuff, Print Studio. One of the things I say in the interview, and I always talk to folks about, is I think photography should be social. I think that your photographs should be seen by other people. When I shoot, about half my photographs, in my head, I'm thinking, wow, this would look great on a page or on Flickr, or I want people to see these photographs. But some photographs lend themselves, almost cry out to be printed out. And so few of us nowadays print out our photographs. We often show them on an iPhone, on the small screen of an iPhone. Wouldn't it be great if you could print out your photos? One of the problems is a lot of us try to print these things out on our home or office color printer, and they don't come out very well. You're not using the right paper, or it's not the right printer, or all that kind of stuff. So these guys at Print Studio, printstud.io, have an iPhone app that allows you to print from the iPhone app or from your desktop. And so I did an interview with them yesterday, and we'll play that on next week's show. Hopefully the prints because what I did was that I'm going to get prints and get them posted up here, and so we'll have this wall of prints. It livens up a room. B, they're great to give out to people. Remember back in the old days, we used to. I remember I talked about this in the interview. I remember how excited we would get going down to the local drugstore to pick up our prints. Flipping through those photographs. That doesn't happen very much anymore for most of us. So it's a way of bringing that excitement back to folks. So Print Studio is the name of the company. P. Booth says it's not a photo unless it's printed. Well, I disagree with that, but I don't think that's true. But it's I like the tangible feel of a photo as opposed to seeing it on a computer screen or an iPhone screen or an iPad screen or things like that. So as always, we encourage you guys to go to the website, yourmaclifeshow.com. You can subscribe to Your Mac Life for $2, $5, $10, $15, whatever it might be a month. And that comes out of your major credit card or your PayPal account. It sends me a couple of bucks each month, and I use that money to pay rent and buy food and keep internet access and stuff like that. You can also go to the website at startingpointphotography.com if you're interested in our photography class, and I hope you are. It's a great time of year to learn how to shoot better. Our tips and tricks class is live and on demand. And that's the key. It's on demand. Whenever you're ready to take the class, you tell me, and I will set it up for you. So it's real easy to do. Jason Painter down in Australia said he wanted to do it at 6 p.m. on Sunday. I worked it out. That's 3 p.m. on Saturday. Boom, we did it. Not a problem. The class can be one person. It can be up to 5 people. So even if if it was you and the wife wanted to do it, be the same price. Everyone's sitting in front of that computer screen. We could do it. Your Mac Life subscribers get 10% off. If you've been a subscriber for more than a year, you get it for free. And if you prepay for a year, Your Mac Life subscription, you also get it for free. So all kinds of ways for you guys to get this, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. While we're waiting for Jim Dalrymple to show up, I don't know if you folks know that I've got another website, DOAMM, Diary of a Madman, is the website. And I really like, I posted the story up. Everyone seemed to rave about the Oatmeal, and I love the Oatmeal. The cartoon, the Oatmeal, is very, very funny. But he posted a review of his magical space car, which I thought was kind of funny. And it's him talking about his Tesla. He bought a Tesla S. Good for him. $70,000 car? Good for you. But he seemed to ignore so many facts of the reality of electric cars, and sort of the people who were lauding him over his review. And so I wrote something on the DOAMM.com website, Diary of a Madman website, basically taking him to task for some of the silly things he said. One of the things, if you don't know, for a lot of folks, if you're thinking about electric cars, there's a thing called range anxiety. And what that is you're worried that you're worried that you'll get stuck somewhere. It's like running out of gas, except worse, because you can't go as far on a tank of electricity as you can on a tank of gas for the vast majority of cars. So folks who buy electric cars are always wondering what the range of the vehicle is. They're always worried about, can I get to an electrical outlet in time? It's probably similar to back in the old days of when cars first came around, worried about where you're going to get the next tank of gas. Probably the same sort of thing. So I thought, well, that's a perfectly legitimate issue, except for the fact that he talks about after 7 months and 4,000 miles, any range anxiety I used to have had been completely quelled. Do the math. 7 months and 4,000 miles, you're averaging 19 miles a day. Now, the Tesla gets 250 and above miles on a single charge. You never had range anxiety. There's no need for you to have range anxiety. For the vast majority of people, there's no need for them to have range anxiety anyway of electric cars. As we were talking earlier, the average commute in North America is 30 miles. Yes, some people will have more. Brian Monroe in the IRC chat room pointed this out. But some people also have less. That's why it's called an average. But most folks don't travel all that far in their car in their day-to-day life. They'll get up in the morning, get in their car, drive to work 15, 20 miles, park the car for 8, 9 hours, get in the car, come back home. So you're only really traveling maybe 30, 40 miles a day in your car. And every electric vehicle gets that easily. Easily. It doesn't matter how you treat the electric vehicle. You're going to get 50 miles out of it without a problem, 100 miles without a problem. So electric cars are really a really good idea. I have no problem with electric cars at all. I don't want one, but I can see why people would. I can see the advantage of electric cars, even if I personally don't need or want one. But trying to make the Tesla seem like something it's not does a disservice to Tesla, electric cars, and your readership too. He talks about the fact that he has a 85 kilowatt battery which can go up to 260 miles on a single charge. That's pretty good if you're the average person. And again, this is one of the reasons why I don't need or want an electric car. 260 miles when I was riding my motorcycle, I would do that. The motorcycle got about 250 miles on a tank of gas. And I would go through 2 and 3 tanks of gas a day on the motorcycle without a problem. 500, 600-mile days are nothing for a long-distance rider. There are a group of people called iron butters. Iron butters are people who ride more than 1,000 miles in a day on a motorcycle. So the idea of thinking it's some sort of big deal that you can get 260 miles on a single charge, because remember, that charge generally oftentimes takes a significant amount of time to recharge all the way back up. Now, you can find supercharger stations that will charge up faster, but if you're plugging it into a house outlet, it can take 8, 9 hours to charge up an electric battery. So there are good and bad points. He doesn't seem to recognize any bad points about his Tesla. One of the funniest things he said is that I want an app that makes race car noises when I accelerate. Why not just buy a race car? You spend $70K on a vehicle, buy a Corvette. It'll make race car noises. Buy a used Ferrari. They'll make really nice race car noises. He talks about my Model S can go from 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. Really? That's great. My motorcycle did it in 3.8. Okay, at a tenth of the price of your Tesla. So thinking that this thing is a magic carpet ride is not true. And again, there are advantages to electric cars, and all kinds of advantages, and they are certainly going to be the future of electric cars. There's no doubt about that. Sorry, it's the future of cars in general. There's no doubt about the fact that electrics, we're in not even the Model T age of electric cars. We're in whatever came before the Model T. We're in the wind-up Daimler-Benz cars long before even the Model T. So there's still a lot of room for growth and the electric car to become much better than what it is, and it will. There's no doubt about it. There's all kinds of folks working very hard to make the electric car the thing of the future, and it certainly will be. Another issue is, as other folks point out, that if you live in a country like Canada, which has huge amounts of space between towns and cities, they may not be as practical as it would be, say, for folks who live in the Northeast United States, which is a very population-dense area and very city-dense area. You know, if you have to drive from Calgary to Edmonton, which I think is about 200, 300 miles, even in a Tesla, you'd have to be careful about how you drove that. You couldn't drive excessively fast over long periods of time, blah, blah, blah. The other interesting thing, too, is hearing folks talk about the buzz about driverless cars is increasing, too. And again, nothing wrong with driverless cars. I don't want one. But they will also be the future. So driverless electric cars are definitely going to be the future. Hiker BC says the cure for range anxiety, hot swap Tesla batteries available this summer for longer journeys. And Brian Monroe says hybrids solve the range anxiety issue. Brian, you say that's hardcore. I can assume you're talking about the motorcyclist doing 1,000 miles. Yeah, that's not only hardcore, I think it's a little insane. Because the idea behind Iron Butters is you do 1,000 miles in 24 hours. Now do the math. That's a lot of riding. You can do 1,000 miles in a car easily because cars are just inherently more comfortable than even the plushiest motorcycle. So, but I would never do an Iron Butt. I have no interest in doing an Iron Butt trip at all because that's just a forced march. That's just not fun to force yourself to have to ride that far or that hard. I just see no advantage and no interest in that. We got our friend Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com in the Google Hangout window. Let me just, I hear Jim. Can I see Jim? Jim, you there?
I'm here.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Good.
Welcome back from your trip. The big news this past week is Apple and Beats. First of all, let's get your thoughts. Is this rumor true? Do you believe?
Oh, who knows?
Fair point. Okay. Let's assume it is true, because that's otherwise the conversation ends right here and I have to say goodbye to you. Let's assume it's true. Can you think of it was all kinds of people talking about why Apple would do this. What would your thoughts be as to, assuming it's true, why Apple would do something like this?
Well, I mean, there's a few things I think that Apple could look at with this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the technology is certainly one. I mean, they have a subscription service, but the people, Jimmy, and I don't know what Drake could do, but they'll find an office for him somewhere.
You go sit over there.
Yeah.
Do you think part of this, and this is something I struggle with, this idea of that people say that it gives Apple street cred. Do you think that's really an issue here? No, I don't really think that's an issue.
No. I mean, everybody at first was talking about the headphones.
Yeah.
And it's not about the headphones. But if Apple was looking for a high-end product that did have some cred already to go along with their iPhones and iPods, then Beats is probably it.
Isn't it interesting, though, that I mean, when you were a young man, say in high school and or college, did you have headphones? Did you have cans that you listened to when you listened to your music on your Walkman or anything like that?
I had those little ones.
Yeah, they don't seem to. Someone said this is a fashion statement that's coming back, but I don't remember it ever being a fashion thing. It's only happened in the last 10 years, I think, probably since Beats has gotten popular. Folks have started to use the over-the-ear cans as the way to listen to their music, right?
Yeah, when I had a Walkman, they were still over the ear. They didn't have in-ear back then, but they were small over the ear.
Yeah.
So
have you ever heard Beats headphones? Have you ever put a pair on, listen to them?
I had a pair on. I don't own any.
The only time I ever put them on is in the Apple Store, just because you get caught up in the advertising. You see the athletes with them, especially athletes with them, and I tried them on. Audiophiles say they sound like crap, but I didn't think they sounded any worse or better than anything else I'd ever listened to.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that they sound like crap, where it's all just bass and everything. I don't know. I mean, I kind of like my in-ears, but when I'm downstairs mixing or anything like that, I use, big cans, AKGs, that are really, really nice headphones.
Now, would you wear those out and about? If you were walking on the street, would you take those with you?
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, I don't.
Even if I saw me coming with those, that'd beat me up.
Now, I will admit, though, that the Apple earphones that I've been using since I've been traveling back and forth on the bus here in Vancouver, the Apple in-ear ones that fit in your ears, even the newer version of them don't fit securely. They don't stay in my ear. I had a set of Etymotics that had the custom-made earbuds, and those work great because they really sealed out well. But the Apple ones aren't any better than anything else either. So you have to have a good set of ear things, listening devices, regardless. And some people prefer the over the ear. I know in Portland, Oregon, Ian Schrey didn't like sticking anything in his ears. He liked having over the ear headphones. So it's all personal preference. It's less a fashion statement than it is a statement of this is the way I want to listen to my music.
And unfortunately for me, it's a statement of convenience again. I just went on a 2-day little trip, and I couldn't take over the ears with me. I mean, I have my Apple in ears, and you tuck them in your pocket. I go outside and I'm having a smoke or something. Oh yeah, I'll listen to my music, and I just pull them right out of my pocket and plug it in, and I go. So for me, it's convenience.
The other aspect of this is the Beats streaming music service. Now, I've seen a lot of comments, and full disclosure, for years, I've been saying that Apple should have gotten into the streaming service at the very beginning. They should have done this a long time ago. Is Apple buying, again, rumored, buying Beats for the streaming service, less so for the hardware?
Streaming service, but the tech. I mean, who knows?
Do you use any kind of streaming services?
Actually, it's funny. I posted earlier today that I was going to give Spotify another chance. Because I use iTunes Radio, but Spotify is a bit different because it is that subscription type thing. So I'll give it a chance. The interface seems pretty good.
Whichever one, I think Spotify was the one that they had a free trial for a while, and I tried it out. There's been other ones that have had free trial. I've never paid for a streaming service. I've never found one that I liked enough. iTunes Radio works okay. There's nothing about a streaming radio service so far that's really grabbed me and really excited me. And that's just for me personally. I do recognize that lots of folks want them. But I think are we going back to the days of radio? Which is kind of funny. This is sort of like a streaming service is sort of like customized radio, where you can say, okay, just play Clash tunes for me, or just play Clash-like tunes for me, or just play Beatles-like. So it's like customizing your own particular XM radio station.
I was impressed with the fact that when I downloaded the Spotify app, and I had signed up before, so I downloaded it when I was at the airport today, and just started doing searches for bands that I would like, and it was all there.
Yeah.
And if you remember on streaming services before, you had trouble getting some of the bands.
Sure. Yeah.
So that was always an issue, but.
I think the only reason I've said that Apple should get involved in this is because so many people would be more than willing to give Apple $10 a month that I thought they were leaving money on the table. You know what I mean? That they could easily charge $10 a month and make $1 billion a year off of this for a completely average service. The question is it too late for Apple, do you think? Is it too late for Apple to... I just heard something click. You still there, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went away and came back, and you didn't even know. You were still blabbering on.
Well, yeah, I'll tend to do that. Is it too late for Apple to get involved in this with Spotify and radio and all the other things like that? You still think there's still room for Apple here?
Yeah, there's room because of the customer base that Apple has.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. I mean, Spotify has millions of customers too, but
Yeah.
Apple has what, a half or 3/4 of a billion devices out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you put a decent streaming service in there, and allow people to download the music, which I didn't try, but apparently with Spotify Premium, you can download the music onto your device.
Yeah.
So you can listen to it offline. Well, that's great. I mean, great. Download the music and listen to it offline. Perfect. If Apple comes up with something like that, then you're going to get a lot of people that will do it by default.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, my music is there, and you can buy it from iTunes if you want, so that you always have it, even if you give up. And billing is always an issue.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Apple has my credit card. You go through net and you get Netflix from your Apple TV through them, and buy your songs and stuff. Okay, well, how much is Spotify? I don't even know.
I'm going to take a shot in the dark, say $10 a month, maybe $14.99. I have no idea.
Yeah. So
that's the other issue why I never really got interested in this kind of stuff, is because of bandwidth issues, of cell phone data issues. That for the most part, when you're traveling, you're not in a wireless area. If you're in the car, or if you're on the bus or things like that, you're using up your cell phone data minutes. And with so many data caps that we see nowadays, I don't see these streaming services being as attractive for the average person as they used to be.
Well, again, some of these Spotify and some Pandora and some of the other ones are still pretty popular.
Yeah, no, they are. They are. That's the other thing too. You saw a lot of folks saying, "Well, why didn't they buy Spotify with millions of you?" Apple doesn't do that. That's why. Remember when they went into China, they went with the third tier China Mobile first to get their foot in the door. Same thing here. If they're buying Beats, and I believe they are, this makes perfect sense from that point of view. I think the other thing that not enough people are paying attention to is, as I've been talking to folks behind the scenes about this, Jimmy Iovine. I didn't realize who this guy was until
he's a powerful man.
Powerful. He's been called the single most powerful man in all of Hollywood. And Apple doesn't really have a foot in that door except for Disney to a certain degree.
Right.
But if there's some way for Apple, and one way that this story might have gone down is that Apple wanted that foot in the door, and by doing the Beats acquisition, they get a lot of things all at once. They get cool hardware, they get a streaming music service, and they get the single most powerful guy in Hollywood to grease the skids for whatever future Apple is going to have with these kinds of hardware and software.
Yep. I mean, most people know Jimmy from being the coach on American Idol.
Yeah. That's right.
Seriously.
No.
But that's not Jimmy. I mean, he can make and break careers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you too, Lady Gaga. All these folks have been his clients, and it's not just music; it's movies and that kind of stuff. So think about Jimmy Iovine as being the guy who's going to jumpstart the whole Apple TV set-top box and an iTunes Rev and a bunch of other things. I think this is going to be. There's all kinds of things going on behind the scenes here that we don't know about that will become obvious in maybe 2 weeks at WWDC, maybe 6 months as all this stuff shakes out.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, Jimmy's going to be. And again, I go back and say I don't know what the hell Drake can do, but and he's not part of the deal.
Let's move on to the story of auction for lunch with Tim Cook raises $330,001 for charity, and it got me to thinking, Jim, how much would an auction with you raise?
Oh, $20, probably not even enough to pay for the lunch.
I think pizza. I think $20 and a Heineken would be a fair price to pay for lunch with you. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
The next time you do that, next time you go traveling, do that. So raise. You know what? Your lovely wife Monique has a fantastic charity. Tell the audience about the dog rescue she does.
Yes, she rescues dogs that are in bad situations and finds homes for them and has them all vetted and all that kind of stuff. So
you know what I want you to do? Next time you go somewhere where there's WWDC, auction off for charity, for your wife's charity, a lunch with Jim Dalrymple, with the beard.
I could auction off a date with me.
No, not a date. That's just too much pressure. That's just because
Uh,
who knows if you'll put out or not.
I'm not worried about it. I can handle the pressure.
No, seriously, dude. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think it'd be something that you could do to help. It'd be a lot of fun and help the wife's charity out a little bit.
Yeah, but with me, I'd be people would be donating so that they wouldn't have to go on the date.
Whatever raises the cash, dude. It's like,
Yeah.
Here, I'll give you $20 to keep your pants on, okay?
Yeah.
Hey, this may not be of any interest to you at all, but it's fascinating to me. H.R. Giger, the man who created the Aliens, died earlier this week. Do you remember the first time you saw the Alien?
I never saw it.
Say what?
I never saw the movie
How could you not have seen the movie?
because it was too scary.
Well, how do you know it was too scary if you never saw it?
Because I saw the commercials.
So you've never actually seen? Well, you must have seen a video or a screenshot or a picture of the Alien.
Yeah.
That thing, I remember seeing that movie when I was, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 years old. Almost made me pee myself. Jeff is just the scariest creature. And then his other artwork. Is there anybody out there who's done more art that was disturbing than H.R. Giger?
No, that was pretty disturbing.
I mean, all of his stuff was just weird and creepy and strange, but also really beautifully and well done stuff. But it's stuff I could never look at for very long.
No.
Giger's stuff was always that sort of art where I gave it a quick look and then had to look away real fast because it was so weird. It was deeply
and then
strange stuff.
per
Oh yeah, and I'm a fan of horror movies and that kind of stuff, and nothing ever gave me nightmares. But good Lord, the H.R. Giger stuff was just mind-blowingly creepy. Just God, it was. I can't believe you haven't seen the movie Alien.
No,
I'm
not going to either.
Even now, as a full-grown adult, you're not going to.
No.
that cracks me up. I understand though. I understand what you're saying there. But yeah, for me, it's I love all those movies. But yeah, the alien creature just nothing scares me very much. But that just made me damn near pee myself as a kid.
Win or lose, I'll fight anybody in a bar. But I'm not going to watch Alien.
I'm not going to watch Alien. All right, the funny story. Microsoft 27 million downloads of Office for iPad. Who cares? Who cares?
Well, there's two parts to this. First, it's interesting to see that there were 27 million downloads because people are interested in giving it a try. And that brings up the second part. How many people are actually paying?
Exactly.
So there is an interesting, I mean, it would also be very interesting if there was only 100,000 downloads.
True.
So that part I find interesting that there was 27 million, but then you got to look at, okay, how many paid? And that we don't know. Yeah.
And that's what Microsoft hasn't said either. And how many are still using it and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Just
right.
saying
that.
that.
I'm one of those who downloaded it. I never paid.
Yeah. And I didn't even bother downloading it because I knew I'd never use it.
I was just as interested in the interface as I was anything. And
Sure,
they didn't do a bad job with the interface, considering it's Microsoft.
I think, I don't think from what I've read, the reviews of it, it's not a bad product. There's so many of us have got negative connotations of Office because we had to frickin' use it for so many years that it's like fingernails on a blackboard for us. But from the objective reviews I read, it's not a bad product. It's just not a product I personally need anymore. So that's why I didn't even bother downloading it.
Yeah.
Folks, I'm going to let him go now because we've got another more interesting interview to do. I'm kidding, man. Amplified, you guys doing it tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Tomorrow, you can listen to Amplified live on 5x5.tv. Do a search for the archives on the iTunes store. It's Amplified with Jim Dalrymple and Dan Benjamin. Jim, thanks very much for joining me, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Shawn.
All right, have a good night. See ya.
Bye.
I can't believe that is there anyone else out there who hasn't seen Alien? I mean, it's one of the iconic sci-fi movies of all time. It's one of those movies that everyone I thought had seen. But I still remember. I can't remember how old I was when I first saw it. but I remember people talking about this creature and the artist of the creature, this guy, I think it's Giger, H.R. Giger, just disturbing imagery. Literally, I mean that literally. His stuff was disturbing. It was so intense and strange and foreign. And I'm a big fan of sci-fi and that kind of stuff. But his stuff was just so out there that it wasn't anything I could look at for any length of time. Really, it's fascinating that Jim has never seen the Alien movie. They're movies that I watch on a regular basis. I still, homage to him this weekend. I've got the box set right up here, and I'll watch the box set, even the bad ones, later this weekend. Folks, when we come back from this break, we're going to talk to a live recorded interview with Oakland A's first base coach, Ty Waller. And Ty is a Mac user. He is an iPad user, but he's also the first base coach of the Oakland A's, and he uses Filemaker Pro to track data for baseball. And for those folks who are baseball fans, there's 8 million different ways of tracking different things in baseball. We talked to Ty about how he uses Filemaker Pro to make him a better coach and to make his team a better team. That and more coming up right after this short break. This is your Mac Life. Hey folks, welcome back. This is Shawn King. This is your Mac Life. I'm on the phone now with Oakland A's first base coach, Ty Waller. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great today. Early in the morning here on the West Coast, and looking forward to the day.
I appreciate you doing this. First of all, you were a minor league player up here in Canada in Calgary for a time, weren't you?
That was my first year in pro ball. That was probably my best year. It went downhill from there, I think. I got MVP of the league in Calgary, Canada. Yep. So it's kind of soft spot in my heart.
Which means I have to ask the question: how realistic was Bull Durham?
How was we what? I didn't get the first part.
Sorry, how realistic was the movie Bull Durham?
Well, that depends on who you are. I think there are some guys out there that have played a lifetime of minor league baseball and probably broken a record or two for hanging around long enough. But, I think it has a little bit of reality to it, and I don't think it's as dramatic for most players, but I guarantee you all those experiences probably happened a time or two for a few guys.
Do you remember the day or the phone call you got telling you that you were coming up to the majors for the first time?
Oh yeah. There's certain things you never forget, especially chasing something for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And and one thing I always tell people, they get to see the major league players on a regular that are in the Hall of Famers. They separate them from year to year because of their expertise. But if you those other guys to put on that team, there's no big league baseball.
That's right. Coach, you are an A's first base coach. Now, for a lot of folks who, even if you're a fan of the game, you may not understand what a first base coach does just from watching it on television. It just looks like you're giving high fives to the guys who hit the dingers. Give us a big picture sense of what the job of a first base coach is.
Well, the first base coach job at game time is just kind of coaching the guys around the bases once the game starts. So I always say you know, my job is to eliminate surprises once the game occurs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get to the ballpark about 1 o'clock every day for a 7 o'clock game, preparing for that night's ball game.
Wow.
So the things that I might, you know, research prior to the game, I'm sharing information with the players, with the rest of the staff. We go back and forth on things that we might could take advantage of in a game situation. And then once the game, you know, we take our batting practice, we take our fielding practice for about an hour, probably about 4:30 to 5:30 when we're at home. Then we come in, you know, kind of set the defense, kind of talk about tendencies for the opposition, and then they warm up before the game. And I'm a reminder coach once I get to first base of what pitchers or defenses might do, so they can be prepared for anything that might occur and recognize ahead of time so we don't make mistakes. But, you know, I think the human element or another.
So the player that's giving him tips and hints as to what might happen in the next few minutes.
Yeah, I have a stopwatch where I'll time the pitcher's time to the plate, and if he gets up high, we might consider stealing the base. I try to remind them of line drives, where the defense is playing, so if a line is hit, they don't get doubled off because the ball's hit right at the body. Balls in the dirt that they can advance on, you know, and maybe a pickoff or two if you recognize a sign. You know, sometimes when you have guys that can really run, they can go first and third on the ball hit to the outfield.
Yeah.
You know, you don't always have the speed on the bases, so they have to make sure, you know, if they're going to take a chance, that there's a definite calculated risk factor that they could have some success. But quick conversation might occur on the field. In years, we've done pretty good over here with the A's and translating that info into success.
Explain for me the idea, doing research on this a few years ago, that for the most part, when a player steals second base, he's doing it on orders from either the coach or the manager. They're not running because they want to run, are they? It's a calculated move by the team.
Oh, yes. There's a few guys that we say have a green light.
Yeah.
Where they can go at any time because they've been pretty successful, and most of the time their attempts are successful. Then there's other guys that you got to encourage to run, you know, and that's because the situation calls for it. And that's when we'll get a sign from the coach. So if they get on base, they can take advantage of it. But most of the time, I'd say the sign comes from the bench, except for those few that might have a green light from team to team.
Guys like the old Oakland A's player Ricky Henderson, he had a green light coming off the bus, didn't he?
You did said that right. I think he probably had a green light. That might have been rare. Probably still thinks he could steal a base. He comes around. He comes around. He was actually in town about a week. Of our runners, and he shared information and insight, you know, to help improve and, you know, just experiences on to the next generation.
Give me your opinion on the head first slide into first base. Should that be banned?
Well, you know what? I say this because there's a rare situation where it might be an advantage, but most of the time it's a disadvantage.
Yep.
More injuries occur because they try to dive in head first. I've seen thumbs torn up where they have to have surgery.
Oh, yeah. Shoulders
are separated. There's more that's going to happen bad. But I tell you, that's passion of athletes trying a quick moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to the opposition's trying to do the opposite to stop them.
Yeah.
And that's what competition is all about. So from a standpoint of reason, I wouldn't like to see that happen most times. But every now and then it pans out, and I think that's why guys
tour of the Major League ballpark. People don't realize watching on TV, those bases are concrete. They're not the soft little pillows that we played in Yankee Stadium, and I didn't realize that's how they get injured. Those things they have no give whatsoever on those bases.
No, they're not going anywhere, and they're locked into the ground.
Yeah.
So
oh yeah.
If there's anything that's going to give, it's going to be the body of the person.
That's right.
That is trying to touch that base in any manner.
One of the things I love about baseball, and I've loved baseball since I was a kid, is the two different aspects of the game, the feel and the intuition, and as you said, the emotion and the passion of the game. The other side of it is the amazing amounts of statistics. And one of the things that you're doing, one of the things that the A's have always been known is capturing a lot of data and storing it in different ways, and then imparting that to the coaches and the players. And one of the things that you've become known for is using data to help ball players. Give us a little bit of a sense of a big picture of how you use data to help ball players.
Well, several years back, and I ended up taking a position in the front office. And I got a first-hand look at the statistics numbers that are in the game today. One might with a stopwatch and a radar gun and kind of grading the guys. Okay, there's a lot to that as well. But putting the two together in a way that once you watch and the numbers that really matter, because of this, I think is the dynamic that we're in transition right now, trying to bring the two together where both sides understand the other side. Knows from a totally different perspective.
Sure.
Okay, so how do you bring the two together? What makes a difference? Each, I guess, side's evaluation. And I think that's where we are right now. And I always tell guys, you got to stay up with the times, because change has already taken place, whether they buy into it or not. And I say, if you look around, times now, there are no more dinosaurs. Dinosaurs died out. And you will be part of that group. Mm-hmm. So we have to constantly analyze the things that make a difference. So I started, I've been one to use the computer. The guys, I started with that guy, and each year the project have a better measurement of to be more. I say, I'm writing all these reports, and now I got the one before that, and so I just came up with a scoring system. The things that I used are communicated with the player and go back and track a history. And I actually started out with the PC, and I storing all this information. But I was a Mac user in the beginning, so now Filemaker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I bought it, and this guy, when I bought my laptop, this was probably about 8 to 10 years ago, and he said, "Man, we've got this program Filemaker that can do the same thing that you've been doing in Excel," and it was Microsoft Access at the time. But he said it can do it a lot better. So I bought the program. I started messing around with it one winter, and I fell in love with it. And I started designing reports and charts. Now manipulating the tables and the fields to create the look and store the data in a way that I can look at it and the player and see the end result that I wanted. Okay, and over the years, it's transitioned into what we use today. Our pitching coach, Kurt Young, and our third base coach, Mike Gallego, we sit down and we set our defenses according to how we're going to pitch a guy that we believe makes a difference on the field. Now, we have our front office that participates in what we do, our manager, our bench coach, our hitting coach. We're always in there talking about the things that might occur, and we put all this information into the program, and we print out the charts that the guys use every day in the dugout and in the clubhouse to prepare ourselves for games.
No database is worth the effort unless the data you're putting in is good, the old garbage in, garbage out. Where are you getting the data from, Coach? Folks talking to Oakland A's first base coach Ty Waller, where's the data coming from? Is there a central place that everyone can get the same data, or are the A's sending out scouts to scout other pitchers and other players on their own? Give us a sense of how the data is collated to begin with.
Well, you know, again, the front office perspective, there is an organization. There's an A's organization where data comes. We've got scouting reports from the minor leagues, from the major leagues, from major league scouts, from the front office. They're always compiling data and info that they feed into our clubhouse to prepare us for a ball game. We get a scouting report booklet on pitchers and players, for matchups, what any pickoffs or anything that might protect this information, and we put it in on a regular basis with the front, insights that they might see. Our manager is constantly in contact with, the front office via phone when we're on the road or at home. And we just disseminate this information throughout our coaches and the players. So we have, I always say, the key to us as coaches is that there's no surprises on the field.
Yeah.
And we're prepared for every, because we've done our homework. And that, to me, creates a sense of understanding where and it work that's put together, and it's together in such a way that when we get there, the players know what to expect on a day-to-day basis. So it's probably as good.
Us have probably seen the movie Moneyball, and folks, if you haven't, if you're not a baseball fan and haven't seen the movie because you think it's a baseball movie, I encourage you to watch it anyway. It's a fun, good movie. But that's where the rep came from, was a book many years ago called Moneyball. And the A's have really been known through at least the late 70s, early 80s as a data-driven team. You guys have really crunched the numbers and done a great job of bringing the data into the the intuition side of baseball. But there is certainly still a percentage of what you do and the way you look at another player, whether it be on your own team or some other team, where your knowledge of the game, your intuition of the game, your passion of the game, has that ever changed from what the data says? You'll see it occasionally where you'll see a right-handed batter up there, and the announcers will go, well, he shouldn't be in there because he doesn't hit well in the situation, and boom, the guy hits a home run, and it's because of the coach's intuition that it's time for this guy to get a hit, or he's been hot, or he had a good batting practice. Do you guys do that too? Do you sometimes override the data and go with your gut?
Well, that's where the manager comes in most of the time, and the conversations that we have leading up to situations, I think, develops that gut feeling. But that gut feeling becomes more of a knowledge-based decision. You know, what is gut? Gut is saying, you know, this guy swings the bat well, this type of pitcher is suited for coach at the plate, and his chances of being successful are higher because of the type of pitcher on the mound and the type of hitter he is. And when you watch a guy every day and you can sense where he's at, when his confidence is the most high and he's feeling very good about himself, the battle is better for that individual at that time because of that guy's state of mind. And I think, I always say, you can look at a guy's tool set and skills and know where he's at, and the ability to put that together with the numbers is what is important. When they match up, that guy has the best chance to succeed. One thing, you can't just look at numbers and say, okay, this guy's hitting a certain average, his OPS and his slugging percentage and such, but you can't look at those numbers and say this guy can't hit a breaking ball or he can't hit a slider. You can't see that in the numbers, but you can see that there's something going on. Now, when I look at those numbers and I go out and look at that player, now when those things match up, I can see why he might have these holes or he can be pitched a certain way. Yeah. But until you see that with your eye, you don't know for certain what those holes are. So I think it takes an experienced eye and the numbers to see what's the way to say it, the accurate analogy of who that player is.
Here's something I've always wondered, Coach. What do you do in between innings? It's one of the things I've always wondered. What does a first base coach or a third base coach, for that matter, do in between innings? Are you sitting in the dugout eating sunflower seeds and chewing bubble gum, or what?
Well, I do both of those, but I'm doing that during the game too. But actually, we have roles in between the innings. I work with the outfielders and the base runners. Mm-hmm. You know, so sometimes when I'm going into the dugout, I'm setting the defense, make sure the guys are in the right places. We might talk about something that occurred in the game that page as well. The infield coach, so he and man the other ones are thinking. So there's constant conversation going on, you know, and I think the group of guys have players, coaches, and all that creates that kind of conversation. Yeah. So, you know, we can answer questions and be like-minded when they're in a game situation.
Do you have access to your data in the dugout? Is your laptop in the dugout?
Charts from the database come in handy. Yeah. I have I print out a chart on all the pitchers, times, tendencies, anything that might be helpful for a game situation. I have a chart that I print out the defense for my outfielders. There's a separate chart for the infield and where they play guys and any running tendencies. Our manager has his own his own little sheet that he has all the information he wants. Pitching coach, Kurt Young, he has a chart where our guys are defense have all the necessary information there right there that we can feed to the player in case every little detail. We've got somewhat of a cheat sheet that'll help us.
Getting damaged, or has anyone ever explained to you why you're not allowed to bring in your iPad?
Well, I think, technology right now today allows you to do things when you can see certain things that might occur during a game that might interfere, somebody stealing signs, you know what I mean? Because if you got a iPad or something like that, you can steal the opposing team signs. You can see maybe a call that you might not like that might interfere with what goes on the field. I think eventually, I think technology is going to allow some of that in the dugout, but it will be in a limited fashion. One team. I love that. I tell you. My life easier, I tell you that. The one thing too, I think the human element of one thing I have good memories. Some guys can go back. Being in New York, you talk to some of the old Yankee greats, and they can tell you, you name a pitcher, he can tell you how he pitched him, and technology today just it forces you not have to trust your memory, where you can be accurate pitch by pitch. The video that these guys have now is so far from what I had when I was trying to play. I don't think ESPN was maybe just starting to exist when I was closing out my career. And now every game can be watched on TV, no matter where you are in the world. And if you want to follow your team, there's a cell phone, iPad. And that's why I believe that the ability to have storage of content and history that from a personal view to go with a worldwide view can only make you more knowledgeable and a better analytic of an opponent and track their tendencies.
Do you think the way you use technology, specifically Filemaker Pro and your Mac, is that really, obviously is a loaded question, is that really making a difference in the Oakland A's record right now, folks? The Oakland A's are leading their division above the Mariners. They've got a 5-game winning streak going on. Is it really making a difference, do you think?
Well, I always say this. I think, again, going back to the overall organization and then the players they put on the field, okay, that analysis happens well before the season starts. Succeed that's where I Oakland being a small market team and a lot of credit goes to our front office as far as who they put on that field because of those analytics during the players that separate. They don't play well, nothing you can do to win a World Series if they don't play. So I think, Billy has done a great job and his staff as far as giving us the players to give us a chance to succeed. And I think the day-to-day grind of making sure those numbers line up, anything that we can do to adjust from day to day, week to week, month to month, throughout the season to position ourselves for a playoff run that will hopefully give us a shot at the World Series is a day-to-day grind, okay? But ultimately, the players still have to play. You have to have enough depth to play around whatever injuries you have. And our health, knock on wood, has allowed us, you know, those opportunities. And I think the chemistry that has evolved with the players that we have been one that. So it's a combination of things. I won't say Filemaker has been that, but what Filemaker has done for me is made my job easier as putting that information together on opposing teams so we know what we're dealing with and we can put it out on paper to show the players what we believe is important, that they can go out there and have a certainty as far as what's going to occur on the field against an opposition.
I've heard this from a lot of people in a lot of different areas. Taking chance and luck out of the equation helps you be better, whether that be in sports or in business. And it seems like the way you guys are using data and the way the A's have always used data, are using Filemaker and your Mac and your iPad, is helping the players do exactly that. Like you said before, taking the uncertainty out. If a player's on first base and he knows that pitcher has got a slow step to home, he is more confident going to second, and you can help him out with that information, not through intuition, but through hard data that the player can believe in. I think that's a remarkable aspect of baseball. I think in particular uses data so much more than every other sport. I don't know if it's because of the long season or because you guys have captured so much data, but it's fascinating to watch data being used in such a passion and emotion-driven sport.
Oh, definitely. And like you said, guys are more confident when they know what's going on.
Yeah.
I go home during the winter, and I've got a brother that was a professional baseball player. Actually, I have two, one older and one younger, that played professional baseball as well. We go home. We got. I've been doing baseball clinics, and I help him coach a couple of travel teams. Okay. And those tendencies start out at a young age. And when guys know how to sort through information to prepare against opposing teams, it doesn't matter what level you're at. But if you don't know how to dissect the information, you're going to get surprised by things that occur on that field. And it's hard to succeed at something that you're not prepared for. Yeah. And that's what I think information now and the technologies that are out there allow us working at this because of experience one generation is on to the next. And that's all we do really as coaches. We prepare. We share our experiences with this generation so they can see better. They can take a better look. I had this one comment that I've been using a lifetime, and I've heard it years ago. And the saying is, eyes that look are common, but eyes that see are rare. And when we can develop that rare eye to see what most people don't see, that gives us a better chance to be successful. And when our vision is clear, I mean, there's no doubt on what we're trying to do. When guys struggle, I always see that they lost that clarity. They lost that vision. So now other things get in the way until they get to that place. Become that coach that can see the things that other people can't see. And that's my I'm a part of my life. Makes me get a better look than others. have at the time.
Does that mean that you're holding this information close, this technique, this way of using data close, or are you sharing this with your other coaches and maybe other teams?
Well, right now I share it with our coaches, our staff, because that's who I work for. Yeah, I mean, there is a guy that actually the team we're playing right now, Todd Stevenson, is the hitting coach for the Chicago White Sox. He worked in the A's organization. Now, I've shared my program with him, but I don't share my knowledge or content in there with him because he's become a user of the product. Yep. And the goal in mind was to be able to work easier and smarter and be able to hold on to what I see, that is effective against an opposition. And so the program is constantly evolving because we find a better way of doing things, and technology allows that. So where we are with further than when it started, 8 to 10 years ago.
Folks, we're talking to Ty Waller. He's the first base coach for the first place Oakland Athletics. They're I think 6 games above 500 or with a 5-game winning streak. Coach, I look forward to seeing you playing against my Yankees in the League Championship Series.
Well, I love to see that. That's one place we've got to get to. We failed the last couple of years, but I've got a feeling this year might be a little different, though.
I wish you the best of luck, sir. Thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Shawn, for your time and your invitation into the tech world.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you guys very much for joining me. Hopefully some of you enjoyed that interview. I always try to do different things. And the folks at, it's funny because the folks at Filemaker sent me an email and saying, hey, do you want to talk about Filemaker? And I was like, not really, because I don't use it anymore. I used to be my first job working with computers was working with Filemaker. And I love Filemaker. I could make Filemaker sing and dance and wet its pants. I love the app, but I haven't needed or wanted to use it in quite some time. So they said, okay, that's fine. And then they came up with this idea. They said, hey, how about talking to this guy about Filemaker? I was like, yeah, okay, now I'm interested. Now I'm more interested in Coach than I was in anything else. And by the way, if you have any questions about Filemaker for Coach Waller, he has set up an email address. He wants to help you guys out with your Filemaker Pro questions. He's got an email address, tywaller46@gmail.com. Ty is T-Y-E. Waller, W-A-L-L-E-R, number 46. So tywaller46@gmail.com. He'd love to help you guys out if you have any Filemaker questions. If you wanted to say hi to Coach Waller, send him an email to tywaller46@gmail.com. If you say you heard him on the show and enjoyed the interview or whatever it might be. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Did any of you guys get the Shutterfly email this morning? For some bizarre reason, Shutterfly sent out to all kinds of people. I know my buddy Mike Rose at TUAW got an email from Shutterfly this morning that says, well, congratulations, nothing more amazing than bringing a new life into the world. Shutterfly apparently thought everyone had just had a new baby. It's just a glitch, but it was still kind of a funny glitch from the folks at Shutterfly.com. This is, without a doubt, the stupidest story you'll see on a regular basis in the next few weeks and certainly months. These websites that constantly post these pictures of the new Apple campus. This is from appletoolbox.com. Hey kids, it's a construction site, okay? There's no difference in the Apple construction site for the new campus than it is from any other construction site on the planet, except the Apple construction site is a circular pile of dirt as opposed to a rectangular pile of dirt. This is not news. Okay, this is not going to be news. I don't care how slow your news day is, Mac websites, this is not news. A circular pile of dirt is not news. Stop trying to report on it as if it were news. And you folks out there going to these stories, just don't click on them. It's not going to be a different pile of dirt than it was last month at this time. It's still going to be a pile of dirt. Stop it. Just stop it. Well, now let's do our StartingPointPhotography.com tips and tricks segment, brought to you by StartingPointPhotography.com. You guys know that I've been talking about this for a while. If you want to learn how to take better pictures with the camera you already have, go to StartingPointPhotography.com and you click on the tips and tricks class. It's a 2.5 hour class, live and on demand. And what that means is live, just like the show is. You guys are watching me on video. You're hearing me through your computer speakers. I can hear you. I don't have to see you. So if you have a messy apartment and else like that, so you can be in the comfort of your own jammies. We did one on Saturday with Sandro in Wilmington, Delaware, and Jason Painter. And Jason didn't have video, but I could hear him. So if he wanted to ask questions, he could interrupt and ask questions. I could see Sandro. So I had Jason and Sandro, and Dave showed up a little bit late. It's a $50 class. You get 10% off if you're a YML subscriber. If you've been a subscriber for more than a year, you get the class for free. Just send me an email saying I've been a year-long subscriber, and we'll set up some time that's convenient for you to do the class. And basically what it is I just teach you the tips and tricks of how to take better photographs. David Pogue posted this on his yahoo.com tech site this past, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and it was, where'd it go? Come here. It's basically he got an email from one of his listeners or viewers or watchers or whatever the heck it is, and the question is, can I just leave my camera on automatic? And to a certain degree, you certainly can. You can leave your camera on automatic and take automatic pictures. There's no need for you to learn anything more than the automatic functions on the camera. Now the problem is, Pogue told his audience that pros shoot on automatic mode. No, David, they don't. As he has since learned in his comment section, very, 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 very few pros ever shoot automatic. They might shoot automatic now and then on occasion, every once in a while, but no pro shoots professionally on automatic. And there's a reason for that, and it's something that Pogue should have known. Automatic, don't think of automatic as being automatic. Think of automatic as being average. What happens is when you turn your camera to automatic or average, it averages everything out. It averages out color and light and exposure and all that kind of stuff. So, for example, say you're pointing your camera at a scene that's got one bright spot in it, and then the rest of it is kind of dark. Well, what will happen is the camera will see that bright spot and average out the entire scene to be average or relative to that bright spot. So what happens is you lose a lot of definition, you lose a lot of detail. That's why pros don't shoot on automatic mode, because it averages everything out. And that's fine. You know, your iPhone's average. Your iPhone's automatic. You know, you can get software for the iPhone that will change things, but for the most part, your iPhone is set to automatic all the time. Point and shoot cameras will oftentimes have an automatic mode. Most consumer SLRs will have an automatic mode. The Olympus OMD M1 that the folks at Olympus have loaned me has an automatic mode, and it's usually set up with, it'll say auto on it. Have I got this thing upside down? I probably got it upside down. Yeah, there it is. It says back and forth. It says auto right there. So it's fine to shoot in auto mode. You can take and get good pictures using auto mode. More important than the modes on your camera is knowing how to shoot, knowing what good composition is, knowing the elements of the image that you're going to shoot. That's more important. But if you want to get more creative, more artistic, for lack of a better term, you're not going to be able to get as good a picture with auto mode as you would with some of the other modes. And there's all kinds of modes on all kinds of different cameras. I want to show you guys some of the modes that you can see on cameras. Let me just quickly pull up Keynote on my iPad. All right, let's see. This should work. Let me just click there. Make you go away. Escape out of you. Go on, go away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys part of my Keynote presentation, the one that I do for the folks for the class, using this app called Reflector to show off my iPhone screen at the same time, or iPad screen. So one of the things I tell folks in the class that's very, very important to do is simply learn to use your camera. It sounds like it makes perfect sense, but a lot of folks don't. They don't read the manual. They don't go to the camera manufacturer's website. They don't make that little bit of an extra effort to learn what the capabilities of the camera is. But it's real important that you do. Because a lot of us will have a camera that's got these buttons on it. And you'll see that these are buttons that will say or have icons for scene modes. And some of those scene modes can be anything along the lines of, you'll see it set up so that there'll be a person in motion. That's for fast shots. There'll be a sort of a mountain icon, and that's for landscape shots. There'll be a picture of someone's face, and that's for portrait shots. A picture of a flower, and that's for macro shots. There's all kinds of other different kinds of modes that your camera has. And also, you'll also see these other ones. There's the auto mode. P stands for program usually. A stands for aperture priority. S stands for shutter priority. And M stands for manual. And we'll talk a little bit about that kind of stuff on a different episode of the show. So what you want to do is, if you want to start taking better pictures, again, you can shoot in auto mode. You can take perfectly decent pictures in auto mode. But try this if your camera has one of these modes. MacMan says, that's a good question. MacMan says, most pro cameras don't have auto mode. Does your D600? Yes, it does. But so did the D3S that I used. It also had auto mode. Most pro cameras, I think the high-end pro cameras, none of them have scene mode. They'll probably have auto mode, but the high-end Nikon, high-end Canons won't have scene modes. So scene modes help you discover the scene. So, for example, these are the four most common: portrait, landscape, close-up, and action. So when you're shooting one of these four things, you're shooting someone's face, or you're shooting a forest or a mountain scene, or you're shooting a close-up of flowers, or you're shooting, say, kids or dogs or cars or horses running. If you flip your camera to one of these scene modes, what you're doing is telling the camera, hey, camera, the thing I'm pointing my lens at, the thing that you as a sensor are seeing, is landscape, is portrait, is a close-up, is a action mode. And that's important because what happens is you're helping the camera take a better image. Let's look at portrait mode, for example. When you shoot in portrait mode, the camera's going to assume that you're showing, that you're getting sort of close up on someone's face, and that it will automatically smooth out skin tones. It will do some funky math in the background so that say for example, the JPEG has got smoother skin tones than it would if you were on auto mode. Okay, so keep that in mind. If your goal is to go out and shoot people's faces, just turn your camera, whether it be again a point and shoot or an SLR or a mirrorless camera, turn your camera to portrait mode when you're shooting people's faces. So another mode would be to do things like if you wanted to shoot the idea of sorry, I'm getting this slide up. Kids. So your kids are running around, you know, and they're outside and they're playing and they're having fun. You want to take pictures of them. Well, it's not exactly portrait mode, but it's action mode or speed mode. And what that does, oh, hang on, let me back up. The other thing about aperture mode, and I'll back up on the slide. So the other thing about portrait mode is it changes the lens on the camera, the way the camera shoots, so that your background is all blurry and fuzzy. See the background on these pictures? You can't tell what the background is. The faces are in focus, but the background is blurry. And that is what happens automatically when you turn your camera to portrait mode. So keep that in mind. This is an aesthetically pleasing thing, is to have the background of a portrait to be blurry, because you don't want the background to be distracting from the face of the person you're shooting. So keep that in mind. If you want to shoot portraits, it'll even out skin tones, and it will make the background, whatever's behind the person, be blurry. Okay? So that's one of the tips that you want to keep an eye out for when you go to specifically shoot certain things. So the other aspect of this is when you specifically want to shoot action. Something in your frame is moving, whether it's a kid running, whether it's a dog jumping for something, whether it's a person playing sports or a car or things like that. What you do when you shoot in action mode is, again, you're telling the camera, hey camera, the thing I'm about to take a picture of is moving quickly. So what the camera does is, okay, great, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to increase the shutter speed, so I'll take a picture faster to freeze motion, to stop motion of the tennis rackets or the kid running, or in this case, the motorcycles going around a corner. So when you're specifically shooting something like action, turn your camera to this kind of action mode, and it will help you capture those images just that much better. Another mode that is used often is what's often called landscape mode. It's usually shown by some sort of mountain pictogram on your camera. And landscape mode, again, it tells the camera, the thing I'm about to shoot, I want it all in focus. I want the whole thing in focus. This way you don't got to worry about, say, aperture is the thing that changes focus on a camera. You don't have to worry about aperture. If you tell the camera this is a landscape, it means the camera's going to say, okay, you want everything, foreground, middle ground, background, all in focus. The other thing landscape does, a lot of folks don't realize, is because you said to the camera, I'm about to shoot landscape, what it does is it bumps up the saturation or bumps up the color of blues and greens, because most landscapes are, water and sky and trees and flowers and that kind of stuff. So it will automatically just give a little juice to those specific colors in your landscape mode. So again, if you're out shooting, you're in the forest and you want to shoot a grove of trees or a mountain range or things along those, a big picture, turn your camera to landscape mode. And again, you're off auto mode. You're not on manual mode. You're not on any other aperture priority or shutter priority mode, but you are telling your camera that you're about to point the camera at a specific kind of scene. The next mode that is quite common is what is often called macro mode. And it's most of the time used for getting up close and personal things, that you want to get an image of something that's really close, like a flower. You want to get up close and have everything in the flower to be in focus. It allows you to get really, really close to these kinds of things, upwards of, depending on your camera and your lens, anywhere from a foot to even sometimes a few inches, and get a decent picture that close to flowers. It also does the same sort of thing as portrait mode, where it makes the background blurry, as you can see in these pictures. Those are the four basic modes that every camera that's got a scene mode will have available to it. You'll also see other kinds of modes. There's going to be a fireworks mode, or a candlelight mode, or a nighttime portrait mode, or I've actually seen some cameras have an eBay mode. And I was like, what the hell's an eBay mode? Well, it turns out eBay mode is when you tell the camera, I'm about to shoot an object on a white background, and the camera compensates for all the whiteness of a white background. Same with the idea of using something like some cameras will have a snow mode. What that means is you're telling the camera, I'm about to point the camera lens at a very, very bright, snowy space. So the camera will do its best to sort of lower the reflectivity of the snow. So learn what those different modes are in your camera. Again, you don't have to shoot, you don't have to get off automatic mode, but if you start using the scene modes of your camera, you'll take little baby steps towards becoming a different kind of photographer. Not necessarily a better photographer, just a different kind of photographer. Sandro says a P mode for Nikons is a good mix of aperture priority and shutter priority. MacMan says Canon still lists aperture and shutter modes as AV and TV respectively. And MacMan, all this photo talk is giving me the want a new camera itch. Someone asked me, I think it was Jimmy Haynes. Let me get my email from Jimmy. Jimmy says, I don't often use automatic mode, but the program or aperture priority settings instead. At the other end of the dial, how often do you shoot in full manual mode? Jimmy, I'm not a pro, so I will rarely shoot in full-on manual mode. The only time I personally shoot full manual is when there is a particular aspect of the scene that I need to capture that aperture priority won't capture. I often shoot, most of my images are shot on aperture priority. And that's something we can talk about at some other time if somebody wants to know more about that. But Jimmy, that's what most of my shots are done at, is aperture priority. I let the camera decide what the shutter speed is. There's sometimes when I'm shooting action that I will switch to shutter mode. And very, very rarely do I need to control both aperture and shutter, and then I'll mess with manual mode. But for me, again, I'm not a pro, so I will actually rarely shoot in manual mode. Folks, that's it for tonight's show. That's our Starting Point Photography segment. As always, I encourage you guys to go to startingpointphotography.com. There's some articles up there. That's getting the website's getting more and more populated with things, with articles, with tips and tricks and hints and that kind of stuff. For example, yesterday I posted something that you can get 2 free 8 gigabyte memory cards for your camera, and it was free shipping too. It was only a one-day thing. So, but there's other stuff that'll get posted up there. And if you're interested in the class, the Tips and Tricks Photography class, that's the best place to find out information. Or send me an email to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. I want to say thanks very much, as always, to Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com for joining me. And a big thank you to Coach Ty Waller, coach of the Oakland A's, first base coach of the first place in their division, Oakland A's Athletics. Thanks very much for the coach for being here. Thanks very much to the folks at Filemaker for suggesting Coach. I really had a great time talking to him. And remember, if you have any questions for Coach about Filemaker or even about baseball, he's a really nice guy, send them off to him at tywaller46@gmail.com. If you don't get that, send me an email to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. I'll be happy to try to help you guys out. As always, I want to say thanks to you guys for being tuned in live, especially, but also thanks to all those folks who tuned in via the archive. As always, I've been Shawn King, and you've been listening to Your Mac Life. See ya!